Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Doug with Artfully Rogue. Welcome back to the shop. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how to do some three-dimensional metal letters. Now, I use my CNC machine to cut the letter out. There's about 22 inches tall by about 12 inches wide and about 2 inches thick. They're designed to hang on a wall, sit on a shelf, got to do whatever you want to do with them. So let's go ahead and get started. So I use a drawing program called Inkscape, and I've chosen a font, and now what I'm going to do is trace the letter, and then I'll take the letter away, which will leave a line drawing, and I'll end up saving that as a vectored image. What I'm doing now is kind of just making sure that the lines are aligned with the letter. That way everything's nice and straight. Checking all my corners and all my points. As you can see, I bring that down just a little bit. Once I bring the letter off of there, I delete that, which leaves the outline on my page, and I'll go and save that into a vector drawing. And then I open up another program called Plasma Cut. That's what this is here. So I bring that letter up that I just drew and I assign an operation to it. What this does is this tells the plasma machine that I want to cut it at this speed and at this thickness, and I want you to start the penetration, on this side of the line, etc. Once the operation is applied, then I can actually save it as a tap file. And once it's saved in a tap file, I open up Mach 3. Now this actually communicates to the plasma machine and the computer that operates that. These components here, you have to zero your machine, so I've programmed the machine to set and start at that position. And as you can see, kind of in the right-hand picture there, the A is set up in that corner. And now all I really have to do is basically just push a button. So that drawing that I originally started with, then I assigned the operation to it, tells it where to start, and you'll see that it cut the inside of the A first, and it will actually start at the top of the A and then go around. You can change these locations if you're doing a larger piece, especially if you're working with thin metal. You don't want it to get too hot in one specific location. Then the metal tends to kind of warp on you a little bit. Usually I have some fans going in the shop, but because I was only doing a couple of letters, I didn't worry too much about it. Plus my machine sits right next to the door on the shop, and so the smoke gets kind of pulled out the big roll-up door, which is the chain dangling there in the foreground of the video. So I wanted to do a 2-inch edging on the letter, and I tried my shear, but it just wasn't as accurate. So I lined up a straight edge and then used my cutoff wheel, and then ended up knocking off about 2 inches of a piece of sheet that I had. Now I show here that I'm doing the letter A, but I'm also got a few other letters that I've been that I'm working on, an R and also a T. So I cut about 4 or 5 of these strips, and then you sand them up, and then you get ready to bend them. A lot of mine marked, and then I would take my speed square, line that up on that mark, and then take my cutoff wheel, and I would actually score the metal. Just makes it easier to bend. Keeps my lines nice and straight. This one I actually just cut off because I didn't need the excess there. And then on my welder, I set it at the lowest setting. That way I wasn't going to burn through the steel. I'm using a 22 gauge sheet steel, so it's relatively thin and it's easy to blow through if you're not careful. So just a few tack welds around the letter itself, just to make sure that the 2-inch section would stay in place. Then I was measuring the outside of the A. Did the same process here, you know, where I would take the speed square and actually keep myself a nice straight line and then cut with the cutoff wheel. This is actually the first time I've worked with this. I've seen them and I've seen other people make them, but I thought today, well, why not give it a chance and see what I can do myself. I'm pretty pleased with the way they came out, actually. I think these might be something that I put into my Etsy store and see how they do. So again, once I got the 2-inch edging for the outside of the A, basically just lined it up and started tack welding around the inside of that 2-inch edging. And again, I just kind of did it, you know, maybe every 3 or 4 inches. Didn't have to be solid welds, mostly just tack weld everything in place. I think you kind of get the idea. You can choose any depth that you want to go with these letters, obviously any size. And then once I got to the end, just a matter of kind of trimming it all up and bending the last sections into place. I'm sure there may be an easier way to do this, but again, since this is my first time doing these, this is kind of how I found that was easiest for me. Kind of left the excess there. It was easy to cut off, just using the cutoff wheel again. I think overall doing 3 letters took me probably about maybe a couple of hours. That was just drawing and then cutting out the 2-inch strips and then getting it all attached. And then I just kind of cleaned up the edges with a flap disc. Guys, thanks for taking the time to watch my video. It's greatly appreciated. If you liked what you saw, then give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, then do me a favor and go ahead and hit that button right up there. If you got a little extra time on your hands, do me a favor, watch some more videos right over there. We'll see ya.